Hi, I'm Norm Abram. Welcome to the New Yankee Workshop. Last time we started building our garage workshop. We started with the table saw, we built a bench, and some storage cabinets. Today we're going to build the mobile unit for the miter box, and then we're going to bring in the rest of the benchtop tools and set them up. Now last time I was working on this countertop. The 2x4s were half flapped, creating a base. Then I have 3/4 inch plywood. And then I used an inexpensive material to cap it, 1/4 inch masonite. If it gets dinged or ruined, remove it, put a new piece down. Now today I want to install this woodworking vise, but before I do that, I want to complete wrapping the edge. I'm just using 2.5 inch pine with mitered corners. I'm going to set it in place with a pneumatic nailer, and before we use any power tools, let's talk about shop safety. Be sure to read, understand, and follow all the safety rules that come with your power tools. Knowing how to use your power tools properly will greatly reduce the risk of personal injury. And remember this, there is no more important safety rule than to wear these safety glasses. Just a little bit of glue on the miter. And I'll just hold the piece flush with the masonite and nail it in place with some 6-penny finish nails. All right, well the next thing I want to do is build another base cabinet. It will line up with the upper cabinets. It'll be open storage, no drawer, but the front will flip up and be supported by some fold-out legs as an additional work surface. I'm also going to take advantage of that and mount a router in the top later. I've pre-cut my side pieces, I've set up the stacked dado head cutter, and I'm going to make a groove for the bottom shelf. Here I've raised the dado to 3/8 of an inch, installed this sacrificial strip to make a rabbet for the back cleats. Here I've pre-drilled some holes for screws to attach a cleat, which is going to tie the front of the cabinet together. Okay, with a little bit of glue in the groove, you can set the bottom in place, and I'll attach it with some brads. Now at the top back of the cabinet, I'm applying some glue for this 6-inch cleat, which I'll use to attach it to the wall. Now this is the front cleat to tie the carcass together, and a little bit of glue and some screws through those pre-drilled holes. All right, with glue at all the joints, I'll attach the other side using the same methods. Now this strip of plywood goes at the back of the carcass underneath the bottom shelf to provide some additional support. And again, just some brads to hold it in place. That 1/2 inch hole is so I'll be able to access the adjuster screw on the leveling feet. A little bit of glue on the blocks, a couple screws. Now at the front of the cabinet, there's a filler that goes down to conceal the leveling feet. This 1-inch spacer, which will go between the cabinets, is so that the flip-up top will clear this extension. Another spacer at the back of the cabinet. Okay, let's see how it fits. Just slide it up against the other cabinet, attach it with some screws, and then I'll level up the feet. Here I've set up the dado cutter again, and I'm plowing out material in these 2x4s to make half laps for the fixed top on the cabinet. Some glue on the half laps, and then I'll secure the joint with some 1 1/4 inch screws. Now I just take the frame, sit it on top of the carcass, pre-drill some holes, and attach it with some 2-inch screws. Now a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Just attach it with some brads. Now the piece of masonite just sits on top. And now we'll trim this edge with some more pine. Here I'm installing 3 hinges on the underside of the countertop. They're used to attach the flip up front. I've ripped 4 pieces of 2x4, 2.5 inches wide, and that's going to be to make the frame for the flip-up top. It's going to take 2 passes to make a rabbet into which I'll set the plywood and the masonite. I've mitered the corners of the frame parts. Now I'm just going to glue each corner and assemble it with some 6-penny finish nails. Here I'm inserting a piece right down the center for additional strength. Now here are the legs, also made out of some ripped down 2x4 stock, and I have to round over the top edge. Using the benchtop drill press, I've just drilled a pilot hole for this special screw, which is part of the folding hardware for the leg. After switching bits, this hole is for a through bolt. All right, now I can attach the hardware to the leg. I start with this bracket, put a bolt through, then this bar. Everything goes through that 3/16 hole in the leg. There's a drill to get that through. Then on the other side, I put this little bracket, and then a locking nut. Next, I call to put this screw in through the angle part of the bracket and the small metal bar. And that takes care of mounting the hardware on the leg. Now the idea is to attach the whole assembly to the frame. Okay, let's see how it works. Locks in place. That's good. Let's put the other one on. In order for the legs to bypass one another, I had to offset the second leg. I've screwed it to the frame, and then I've screwed the other side of the angle to a block, which I'm just going to nail in place from the outside here, and later I'll glue it and attach it to the plywood top. That should be plenty strong. Now the hinges get attached to the frame. Set it in place and get the pins in. Here's the 3/4 inch plywood for the top. I had some narrow strips left over from an earlier cut, so I've seamed it over the center support. They don't call us Yankees for nothing. Next comes the 1/4 inch masonite. I want to mount a router in this table, so I'm going to take a base and secure it to the bottom a little bit later. Through the base will go a motor into which I can put router bits. I need a hole for the bits to come through the table, so I've located a mark 10.5 inches in from the center, and a 2-inch hole should be just right. I've removed the masonite and flipped the plywood over. I've taken the base and laid out a little bit larger than the diameter of the base. The combined thickness of the top between the plywood and the masonite is 1 inch. That means my bits are going to be greatly compromised in the distance that they can come through the table. So I'm going to relieve or remove some of the material to maximize the use of my bit. To cut it out, I'm using my plunge router, which is set up with a 3/4 inch straight cutting bit, and I'll just freehand the material away. Okay, with some glue in the rabbets, I'm ready to drop the plywood back in, and I'll attach it with some brads. Now I can set the masonite in place. And now I can put the screws for the base through the pre-drilled holes and see if I can get everything lined up here. Okay, that's good. Now, it's not the most convenient spot to get to under here, but for deep storage, it'll work great. And when it's time to put it away, you just fold up the legs and let it go down to seal off the cabinet. That works great, and it only takes a couple seconds to flip it up and get a nice big work area. Now, there's a couple more things I want to take care of up here. I want to put some shelves, open shelves with no doors in the middle, and I want to attach my drawer fronts. The open shelves are going to sit on some 3/4 by 3/4 cleats just made out of plywood. I pre-drilled holes, and I'm using some 1 1/4 screws to fasten them. All right, now the shelves just sit on the cleats, and I'll put a couple brads just so they won't slide out. And I think I'll rip some strips of pine to dress up the front edge. A little bit of glue where the pine meets the plywood, and I attach it with some brads. Now I'm ready to apply my drawer fronts, and there's a little trick here. I don't like to measure and try to figure out where the front actually attaches to the box. I like to set it in place, use a couple spring clamps until I get it spaced exactly the way I want, and then I can attach it with some screws from the inside. Okay, now I'm using some 1-inch screws to attach the front. I don't know. The forecast said sunshine. I don't think so. Nevertheless, today we should be able to finish our garage workshop. Now, during the course of this project, you've seen me use this tool, a chop saw station. We built it a couple years ago, and if our email is any indication, this is a very popular project. We built it in response to the carpenters who watched the show. They wanted a place to set their saw while they were on the job. So it's meant to be portable. These extensions fold in, the legs drop out. There are really 4 parts: a table, 2 legs, and the chop saw. Now, I like the height because I don't have to bend way down to get a good sight line on the saw blade. Now, if space was no problem, this would be a great choice for the workshop. But we are tight here, so we need something smaller. And we do want to have the miter saw available all the time because you use it in just about every project. So we have to come up with a different design. I want to make a unit that's on wheels so I can bring it out and use it whenever I need it. And I want to maintain that height. I'll have some extensions, but not quite as long as the chop saw station. And I think I'm going to build it in 2 levels so that I can use the chop saw on one side and then use other benchtop tools on the other side. Put a nice storage drawer in it, close it in with a couple doors, and I think we'll have a nice cabinet. Let's get started. Many of the good ideas for this workshop came from my friends Mark Strawler and Scott Box. They suggested this flip-up work surface. It works great, as I found out this morning as I began laying out the parts for our mobile unit. What you see here are 2 pieces of MDO plywood clamped together. This is the top edge of one of the side pieces. I've laid out various aspects of the cabinet. The first thing I want to do is take this section out. This is where the miter box is going to sit, and this is where other portable benchtop tools will sit. I'm just using a straight edge clamp. I'm going to use the circular saw to make the cut. That dado is for the bottom shelf. The chop saw will sit on the shelf that fits in this dado. That dado will close off the low work surface from the upper work surface. This piece is a stiffener. It goes at the bottom of the vertical groove, right tight up against the bottom shelf. Just going to pin it right here, and then I'll attach the piece with some screws from the underside. The next piece is the top where the chop saw will sit. Now I have a piece that goes between the upper and lower work surface. I'm going to put these 4-inch strips next, and I'm going to use those to attach the lower work surface. Now I'm going to take the other side, which I've already put the glue in all the dados, try to set it together. Once it's secured in place, I will fasten it using the same methods. All right, let's put it up the way it's going to go and check it for squareness. Okay, on this diagonal I have just about 39. And on this side, just a hair under 39. It's close enough. This 2-inch rail is going to be used to support the draw hardware, and it'll be a place the doors can close against. I'll attach it with a couple screws through the ends. Next thing I want to do is dress up the front edge of this bottom shelf. I'm going to cut a piece about 1.5 inches wide. That'll make it stiffer also. Okay, I've notched the ends of these pieces to fit inside the dado, and I'll just glue it and attach it with some brads. Now, while the piece is still up on the workbench, I'm going to attach the door hinges and the drawer slides. These are full extension slides, and this part couldn't be easier. Just a few screws into the side of the cabinet. Some more 1.5-inch wide pine will cover the edge of the countertop and also provide a place to clamp a tool down. While I've still got the cabinet up on the bench where I can work on it, I want to install these plywood blocks underneath the cabinet. It'll give me more wood into which I'll be able to set lag screws which will secure these locking casters. All I'm going to do is apply a little bit of glue and nail them on with some brads. The only part of the draw slide that gets attached to the box is this little clip. Here I'm making some extension wings for the miter box station. I'm just using a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I picked up these fold down shelf supports so I can put them out of the way when I don't need them. I've brought out the portable dust collector because I need it for the next benchtop tool, which is this 12.5 inch surface planer. There's a wide cutter head with a couple knives in it. You can take rough cut lumber and smooth both surfaces to make boards for projects, or you can take stock and thin it down, as I need to do here to set our miter box. To secure the miter box, I'm using some small fender washers and some drywall screws. Okay, now let's roll it into the storage spot. Now this is going to be a great accessory to have in the workshop. Now there are a couple more items I want to take care of. Here's something I wish I had done earlier at the New Yankee Workshop. Taken a 2x4, ripped it down to about 2.5 inches, put a few long screws through it and attached it to the wall. Now once again you can see the advantage of this solid wood paneling. I can put anything anywhere I want. Now this is a detail that only takes a few minutes to do, but you'll use it every day, storing your clamps. I'm going to take advantage of this wall for lumber storage. So I picked up these heavy-duty standards at my home center and these brackets. I snap them in wherever I want, and there's plenty of strength here to store my lumber. We've also installed this metal cabinet to store our paints and finishes and other household chemicals. That's a good idea to have this cabinet able to lock, especially if there are children around. This completes the garage workshop. I suspect that this is going to be a very popular project and that many of you will be building a workshop of your own. But remember, work safely.
And the main man, Abram, is back at 6 tomorrow morning with Steve for This Old House.